So, Killer7. This is going to be like my review, my thoughts, ultimately, on this. One of my favorite games of all time. I'm playing Killer 8 mode here in the background, as you'll see in a minute. Harmon, young Harmon, I guess he is, before he was wheelchair bound. Uses a Tommy gun. All of the enemy weak points are obfuscated. You can't tell where they are. I'm kind of like trying to show that off here. So you don't know where to shoot them. You have to guess. So it's very hard to get thick blood, or thin blood for that matter. And all of the puzzles are more difficult, which you will see later in certain ways. And also I will show off what it looks like when you use the hint mask from Yunhyun. Also, everything is a one-hit kill. Every enemy, if it hits you, will kill you in one hit, except for Harmon. Harmon can take two because of his massive vitality pool. Harmon has this Tommy gun that it's really powerful, but that kind of works against you because you want more shots to be able to figure out. You want more shots to hit, so you can figure out where the weak points are, but it's also very inaccurate, so it kind of judders all over the place when you're firing. I think you can tell by my gameplay. So it's one of the few games that Yahtzee Croshaw approves of, and I think it's clear to see why. It came out in 2005 when games were starting to get kind of Gears of War-ish, especially shooters, which had stopped being colorful and ultra-violent. Here's this game where all the cardinal sins are being made in terms of gameplay. The enemies are all invisible, you're stuck on rails, and sort of. The story is this confusing, temporarily displaced thing about psychic abilities and ghosts with the voice filters. It's the type of thing you just could not sell in America at the time. But Suda51 and Grasshopper managed to get Capcom to publish for them. Don't ask me how. Suda worked his magic, if you ask me, because this type of thing is too weird for Westerners, but much too about guns and gore for the Japanese to really like it in most cases. I said in like the first video that in interviews, Suda Goichi, that's Suda51 for you, said he didn't watch or read anything for a whole year while working on this game, just to make sure that everything in it came from him, no influences. Shinji Mikami is another great of storytelling, and these two titans just came together to make this trippy thing work, and I think it really shows.
Would you like to join me for a game of Russian roulette?
So, Russian roulette cutscene. It's somewhat legendary for its direction, and it's just completely classic in the whole how to compose shots and direct emotion and voice acting in a video game.
Win. I'll let you in on a little secret. How to hit on women with 100% success.
I think every film student should watch this thing and be like, yes, this is how it's done.
If you lose, then I want you to kill the president.
All right. It's a deal.
Scene starts out with these low shots of Benjamin to imply his immense political power. But then as time goes on, it starts putting low shots of Garcian as he gets the upper hand time and time again. The music here is also amazing. Just the way it slowly ratchets up in tension. Perfect.
But you got guts, son. No way I'm gonna die today. Or tomorrow for that matter. At least not until the election is over. It takes more luck than this game to run a country.
Also, apparently it takes luck to be a president. It's a little strange. Like, that's what you would expect. You expect this big outpouring of emotion every time it's their turn. But Garcian Takes the gun, no hesitation, click, doesn't show a thing. And there's the symbolism of there being 7 shots in the revolver. And that Garcian is a professional and he knows that. He knows that's the type of gun that has 7 shots.
I just wanted to become a president.
They start putting Garcian on the left.
The empty click of this gun
He's always standing up.
will come true.
Because the entire balance of power is shifted, like the entire room has moved over to the side.
Looks like you lose, son. Sorry.
And at the end, he doesn't even follow through. He doesn't follow through on his promise. He's just another lying politician after all. There's themes of imperialism at play, like does America have the right to meddle in other countries' elections and affairs and install their own government? Is it unavoidable that America had this immense power because of treaties signed at the end of World War II and is now required to provide for the defense of a bunch of other countries? Was 9/11 caused by America's interference with the Afghan-Russian war back in the 80s? Or there's like stuff about privacy rights and how far we should go to keep people safe, how much power government should have. It's ridiculously high-level themes explored by this brightly colored shooter game, and I love it. There's even the handsome men in this cutscene who are the super Japanese style of tokusatsu heroes, and are such direct mirrors of the more Western style Grim and gun-toting Killer7 that when you fight them, they literally mirror your moves on a 1-to-1 scale. It's probably intended as a reference to how Western media borrows stories and themes from Japanese ones, and vice versa. Like, there's a long history of cowboy movies being based on samurai ones, and samurai movies being based on cowboy stories. And more recently, there's movies like Edge of Tomorrow, which is pretty much exactly all you need is kill. And we're seeing a lot of battle royale type plots in movies lately. So there's just a ton of things that are being talked about in this game that have nothing to directly do with the plot. The actual plot about the inevitability of war and conflict paints this very grim and sad picture about human nature. About how these small ripples in the form of the Smiths and the Smiles end up causing massive changes because people can just never leave well enough alone. They keep absorbing more and more people into them, which is, I feel, is a pretty interesting allegory for both the people we think of as heroes culturally and radical groups, which are at times the exact same people. Like going back to the Afghan war, we had all this propaganda about heroic guerrilla fighters fighting off those evil Soviets. And then not 15 years later, 9/11 happens. And of course there's the visuals, which will stick with me until the end of time. Grasshopper had this unique 3D modeling style even back in 2005, where human character models look like humans, but they're also slightly off. The Smiths, you can always tell pretty much how they act and how they're going to fight by the way they look, but also the way they move and stand. Dan has this cocky posture with his revolver on his shoulder. Khan has his head cocked to listen. He has this slight figure that you know this is the agile young guy. Kevin Smith has this hunched over posture and holds his knives with his pinkies out. So you know he's the creepy weirdo. Mask has almost like a wrestling stance. It's this perfect character design, really. The way the Heaven Smiles look with their sharp angular lines and their bizarre repeating pattern textures are super distinctive too. You can tell what type of smile it is for a long way off just by their silhouette, even, which is really good for gameplay reasons. Also the way they do these intense, heavy black shading, it always makes it look like an LED monitor is broken. I don't think this was the first game Grasshopper did that used this crazy shading and saturation style, but it's certainly the first one I can remember. It gives everything a noir sort of look almost. Like cutscenes that are animated differently, like Western-style Carfax commercial looks for the Cloudman stages cutscenes, and then just straight-up 90s anime for the handsome men. I don't know if it's intentional to show you that things will work a little differently on these stages, or if it's just that it looks awesome. I'd accept either one, though. I also really love that you go through the Union Hotel twice. First time it's a normal level where you collect soul shells from locations that the original smiths died. And each floor's color scheme is based around the colors of the smith on that level. Then you go back and it's just Emir's memories coming back to him at the time he did all that when he was just a kid. And then make himself forget in the form of his young self committing suicide. Or in the level, his future self as Garcian shooting him. So, Killer7, maybe my favorite game of all time, and it's also just really fun to play through, even though I'm not the greatest at it, as you saw in the playthrough. So, regarding the channel, Off will be continuing, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time will be continuing. I have a few more Let's Plays planned for the future. Let's see, about 5 or 6 more games I'd like to play before I run out of ideas and games that I actually own. Any suggestions for things that are kind of mind-bendy like this, or have like an anti-war, anti-violence message would be good. YouTube has a few things that they try to tell you about. Like, you're supposed to put, if you want more views, you're supposed to have a face cam. I'm not going to do a face cam. PewDiePie is an outlier because he has a face cam and he has the most viewers, the most subscribers, but he doesn't really count because, you know, we're not all PewDiePie. They also say you should put a screenshot, or not a screenshot, but you should put yourself making an emotional face on the thumbnail. Put circles and arrows on the thumbnail. I'm not going to do any of that stuff. I respect your intelligence more than that. I will say that putting likes, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. That actually helps. More comments helps. I don't mind people backseat gaming me. If there's something that you want to tell me that you want me to do, I'll do it. If the recording's still going on, of course. For completed LPs, I can't really do much about it. Share my videos around. I know there's a lot of LP content on the internet, a lot of LP content on YouTube. So it's a saturated market, I get that. So I thank you for sticking with me. Out of everyone you could have chose, you chose to watch my LPs. I'm very grateful for that. So, as my usual sign out, I'll say thank you for watching. I'll see you in the future.